Welcome to AI Mutual's coverage over coffee, where we talk about various insurance topics in a fun and informative way that is easy to understand, enjoying listening along with like-minded individuals who are excited about creating generational wealth for their families. This month, we are changing up the format this time for our coverage over coffee session. With all the drama, diseases, unemployment, and police brutality happening in our world, I just thought it'd be fitting to receive some encouragement from a motivational speaker. I'm very excited to have my dear dad, Dr. Leon Ivory, today to talk to us a little bit about him. He is currently a minister in Texas. He is also has preached in lectureships, conducts leadership workshops, marriage seminars, and speaks in gospel meetings throughout the country. He is the author of There's No Place Like Home, as well as Just Do It, which we're going to hear from him today on. His education experiences, he has his doctorate as well. All right, so call him Dr. Leon Ivory. He has 20 years of experience working in psychiatric settings with special interest in chemical dependency. His previous experience also includes 5 years as a manager in the financial services industry. Dr. Ivory enjoys over 40 years of marriage, has 2 adult children, 1 daughter-in-law, and 3 grandchildren. So I would love for you to be able to go to his website online, type in www.overcomeit.com to learn more information about him. So without further ado, I present to you Dr. Leon Ivory, who will be speaking to us today on the subject of live empowered, not in fear. It's a blessing to have you today.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience and encourage them. I'm excited about what you're doing, how you're trying to encourage them with their financial future. I believe the encouragement that you're giving to them is very needed. And so we want to do whatever we can to encourage them. I believe in that. I used to be in financial services, as she was sharing with the audience there. Had a great time then. And so what we want to do today, we want to talk about being empowered, living an empowered life rather than living in fear. One of the things that I did last year, I written a book titled, You Can Do It Because God Believes in You. One of the things, the reason why I wanted to write that book is because when I was working in the psychiatric setting, people would come to us in a state of crisis. They would feel overwhelmed, feel incapable of handling the crisis that they were struggling with. You would see their perspective changing. They lose their view of how to handle trials and tribulations. They stop having confidence in themselves. And so what they would do, they would come to us, and our goal was to help them to have a different perspective of what's going on in their lives. We would show them some strengths, some abilities, some gifts, some talent, some support system, and beliefs that they have to be able to handle whatever they are dealing with. And so as a result of doing that, they will leave out empowered to be able to handle the crisis that they were experiencing. But one thing I found out is that not only those who came to the psychiatric hospital would struggle with things, but even those who were members of my congregation, seminars I would attend, they would struggle. And so I wrote a book because of the fact I wanted them to understand that the great God of the universe, who knows us better than we know ourselves, believe in our ability to handle any challenges that we face in life. Because the issue is not what happens to you, but how you view what happens to you that will determine how you deal with what happens to you. That is why 2 people can struggle with the same thing and one person becomes a success and another person becomes a failure. Let's look, for example, at what's going on in our society today, especially in America. A lot of people in America right now are living in fear. They are panicking. Number one, because of the COVID-19, a virus that have killed over 250,000 people, and over 8 million people have had the virus, and they're still struggling with some of the symptoms associated with the virus. Then you also are dealing with people who feel financially stressed. They have lost their jobs. Companies that used to be around here for a long period of time have closed. And then you have the unemployment rate that have just escalated. You're dealing with people who are being evicted from their homes. They were hoping that the government would rescue them by giving them some type of stimulus, but unfortunately they found out that's not true. Then you're dealing with the racial tension in our country that have divided our country and really put us in a vulnerable position to really be taken over by other countries. And then don't talk about the election that we experience right now. A lot of people are uncertain. They have fear. They don't know what's going to happen regarding this election. They don't even know if the election is going to be fair. But one of the things you're going to find out as a result of all that is happening, some people, as a result of this experience that's going on in our country, they're going to find themselves bitter and broken, where other people will be better even in spite of all that is happening in this country. Why is that the case? Like I stated earlier, it's not what happens to you, but how you view what happens to you that will determine how you deal with what happens to you. One of the realities of life is that everybody deals with stuff. Sometimes people think that what they are dealing with is so special that nobody else have ever been through what they have been through. But the reality is that others have gone through what you have gone through, and they have overcome it. And just like they overcame it, you can overcome it also. What our society like you to believe, they want you to have a negative mindset and get into a pity party, feel sorry for yourself. Poor little old me, I can't make it. But the reality is that the trials and the challenges and the crisis and the challenges that you are experiencing are the challenges and crises that others have experienced. And just like they won, you can win also. Now, one of the things that challenges people, and that is a dominant emotion, is called fear. Fear is an emotion that is talked about even in the Bible more than any other emotion. It's talked about 366 times. Fear not. Don't be afraid, because this emotion has paralyzed people, it have controlled people, it have kept people from becoming all that they are capable of becoming. When we talk about fear, fear is a strong emotion that we have concerning a perceived threat, perceived danger. And I want to emphasize that word perceived, because the threat may not be real. It may be imagined. It may be abnormal. It may not be normal. Usually what happens, most of the fears that we have really are fear that never happen. Things don't really ever happen. That's why they use the acronym for fear, false expectation appearing real. Usually what you're afraid of usually never happened in the first place. But usually when you're talking about fear, people usually have three responses to fear. Number one, they deal with fight. The second response is often flight. And the third response is freeze. What do you mean by those responses? Number one, let's look at fight. For example, let's look at if you were sleeping at nighttime, you're sound asleep, and then about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you hear a noise, a loud noise, and it awakens you, and you are frightened, you are scared, because you think that somebody is in your house. And so you're afraid. You're wondering what you're going to do. But then after a while, that fright or that fear turns to anger. Your mindset is that who have the audacity to be in my house? And therefore, you are ready to fight. You're ready to take on that person. But then the other thing that causes how fear responds is what we call flight. You're walking down the street and you pass a house, and all of a sudden you hear a dog barking, and you look around and you see a pit bull coming out the yard. Let me tell you something, most people are going to run or flight. So that's the second thing. But then the third thing that how people respond to fear is what they do, freeze. What you mean by freeze? In other words, they they are paralyzed as a result of this fear. I think about a biblical example in terms of, it talks about one man was given 5 talents, and he took those 5 talents and he invested it, and he got 5 more talents. Another man had 2 talents. He took those 2 talents, he invested it, and got 2 more talents. But then the other person had 1 talent, and what he did, he buried his talent. He hid it in the ground because he said, I was afraid. Unfortunately, most people, or many people will say, are like this third response. They freeze, frozen asset. They take their gifts, their ability, and their talents, and they bury them. They become frozen assets. They never live up to their ability. They are afraid to venture out. They're afraid to take a chance. They are afraid to utilize their skill. And one thing about fear is a self-imposed prison that keep us from being and becoming all that we are capable of being and becoming. And so fear can dominate our lives if we allow it to. When I think about fear, I think about at least 3 types of fear we must overcome if we are to be successful. Number 1, the fear of failure. Many people are afraid of failure. They're afraid of the shame and how people are going to respond to them if they fail. But let me tell you something. Nobody goes through this life without failing every now and then. Failure is part of the human process because all of us are imperfect. Everybody going to fail every now and then. When you read the biographies or the autobiographies of men and women who have achieved great things in their lives, one of the things you're going to find about all of them is that all of them failed at some point in their lives as they were trying to accomplish whatever goal they had in mind. I think about Abraham Lincoln. I think about Oprah Winfrey. I think about Michael Jordan. I think about Jay-Z. I think about Jennifer Hudson. I think about Les Brown. In other words, it doesn't matter. It can go on and on and on. When you read the accomplishment of great men and women, you're going to find out that all of them have failed. But let me tell you something. Failure does not have to paralyze you. Failure is part of the process for success. In other words, for failure, you learn what works and you learn what does not work. Failure allows you to experience what's going on. And so therefore you say, oh, okay, that didn't work, and so I'm going to try something else. The only time that failure becomes damaging to you is when you stop trying. So I want to encourage you, whatever you are doing, keep on trying. Even if you fail, eventually you're going to achieve your goal. The second fear, if we're going to be successful, if we're going to have to overcome, is the fear of rejection. Now, I know that's a great fear. None of us like to be rejected. All of us like to be accepted by people. And there are a lot of folk who have this fear, and this fear comes from a lot of different sources, and we don't have time to address those sources today. But one of the things you need to understand about life, and these 3 principles I want to share with you. Number 1, you cannot please everyone. You have to realize you cannot please everyone. Number 2, you cannot please anyone all of the time. Even if you please them today, you might not be able to please them on tomorrow. And the third thing, you can please God. Why do you say that? Because God is consistent. He is not up and down. He's not on and off. He is consistent. So you can please God. And so when you're dealing with rejection, everybody's going to be rejected. Even Jesus, who was perfect, he was rejected by people. The Bible talks about him coming to his own received him not. So if Jesus was rejected, you and I are going to be rejected. But one thing about rejection, you cannot always take it personally. Many times, it may be something wrong with the person themselves. It may be their issue. And when a person have a problem with themselves, then they're going to take it out on the whole world. So I want you to understand that the fear of rejection is something you have to overcome because that's part of the process, the growing process. The third fear that you have to overcome is the fear of success. What you mean, the fear of success? Why would somebody be afraid to be successful? Well, when you're talking about success means change. You're not going to be the same person that you were before when you become successful. Number two, success means you're going to receive a lot of attention. You're going to have a lot of people around you. That's why the paparazzi and all those folks and a lot of famous people, one of the challenges that they have as being successful is dealing with all of the attention that they receive. Another concern about success that people have, if you're going to have the haters, you're going to have people who don't like you, who don't care anything about you, who will be jealous of you. Another thing about success is that the standards change. You raise the bar. Your expectation of you change because they have seen you successful and they expect even more success. And therefore, sometimes people are afraid to be successful because they feel the pressure that's associated with being successful. But let me tell you something. The most important thing I would suggest that you always remain humble. Don't get all caught up in yourself thinking you all that in a bag of chips and get all arrogant, because you need to remember that you are not always in the position that you're in right now. But still, I want you to know that you are an eagle. And when you are eagle, you can't hang around the chickens there. And so you have to realize that that's just part of the price that you are paying for success. You are in the winner's circle. And to be in the winner's circle is special. If winning was easy, then everybody would do it, but they are not. And so therefore, you are in the winner's circle. The consequences, the price you are paid to be successful is all right, because you had dreams, you had goals that you were trying to achieve, and that's all right. So don't be afraid to be successful. And if anybody have a problem with that, that's their problem, not yours. And so when we talk about life, you have to be able to overcome fears, whatever fears that you may have. Now, regarding overcoming these fears, often you need to be empowered. You need to be encouraged. You need to be strengthened. You need to be emboldened to know that you can overcome. God, the great God of the universe, empowers us because he believes in us, because he knows what we are capable of doing. He knows our skill set. He knows us on the inside, and so he empowers us. I'm reminded of the Apostle Paul. Paul said on one occasion, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Notice something. Notice the partnership in this. He said, I can do. That's Paul's part. He can do some stuff. And then he said, all things through Christ who gives me strength. That's God's part. One thing you're going to find about God, God will never do for us what we can do for ourselves, because he believes in us. He knows we are capable of doing, and so he encourages us to be all that we are capable of being and becoming. I'm reminded of the serenity prayer when I think about this. The serenity prayer says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. First thing, there are things that you and I don't have any control over, and that's God's part. You let him have that. For example, I can't control the weather. I can't change my past, and I can't control how everybody feels about me. But I can respond a certain way to the weather. I can respond to how what have happened in my past, and also I can respond in an appropriate way to people regardless of how they feel about me. Why? Because that is something that I have control of. Excuse me. And so when it comes to control, we as human beings have power. The second part of the serenity prayer says, give me the courage to change the things that I can. Often, it's not that we can't change things, that we can't do things. We may not have the courage to change the things that we can change. We don't have any courage because we don't have any faith and confidence in ourselves. When I talk about our belief, that is very important. We must believe in ourselves. One saying is that we are what we think. But not only we are what we think, we also we are what we believe. The law of belief says that anything you believe with feelings become your reality. Now that's powerful. Whether it is true or false, if you believe it with feeling, it becomes your reality. And so when we talk about this belief, we are dealing with the idea you have to believe in yourself. And I'm reminded of Henry Ford. He said, you can or you cannot. It all depends on how you feel about it. In other words, what you think you can do and what you think you cannot do is true. It's based upon what your perception of that. And so when you talk about this belief, you have to believe in yourself. It's all in your own mind. It's not about talent. It's not about ability and gift. It's all in your own mind. For example, I'm thinking about another story. There was a time in the Bible where 9 of Jesus' disciples were unsuccessful in healing a man who was demon possessed. They were unsuccessful not because they did not have the ability, because of the fact that earlier the Bible talked about them having the ability to cast out demons. But they were unsuccessful because they did not believe in themselves. Jesus came on the scene. Jesus healed the young boy that was demon possessed. And the disciples asked Jesus, Lord, why couldn't we cast him out? Jesus said, the reason why you could not cast him out because you didn't have any faith. For if you had the faith as a grain of mustard seed, you can speak to the mountain and say, move here to yonder place, and it shall be removed, and nothing shall be impossible to you. What it is not our ability, our gifts, or our talent, but it's our beliefs. And often what we have is what they call self-limiting belief. It's a form of negative thinking. It's a mindset that somebody told us what we cannot do based upon false information or what we may have told ourselves what we cannot do. And therefore, we become paralyzed. We are unable to do what we have in our ability to do. There in psychology is what is called learned helplessness. What I mean by learned helplessness is a mindset that says that you cannot do certain things. You don't believe that you can do it. You feel helpless, that you're incapable of doing it. And there are 3 belief systems that leads to this mindset of learned helplessness. The first one is what they call permanence. Permanence is that the problem have always been there. And because the problem have always been there, I can't overcome the problem because what I have done in the past didn't work, and therefore whatever I try to do in the future will not work either. And so we have a mindset that this problem, this situation is permanent and there's nothing I can do to change it. Well, one of the things that perhaps can help you deal with permanence is you may have been dealing with the problem a certain way. You may have to deal with it a different way. A biblical example, and I know I'm talking from a biblical perspective, but I just want to give you an example. There was a woman that had what they call an issue of blood of hemorrhaging for 12 years. And she used all her resources. She went here and there, went to doctor after doctor, spent all of her money. Instead of getting better, she got worse. But then she heard about Dr. Jesus. And so what she did, she went through the crowd. The crowd was in the way. And she overcame the crowd. She overcame what they call social distance at that time because she could not come to the crowd with the illness that she had. But the point is, she was able to remedy her problem because she went a different route. She tried something else, and sometimes what happened, we have to try a different route. The other self-limiting belief is what they call pervasiveness. Because we have failed in the past, we look at ourselves as failures, and therefore we believe that failure is a part of our life, we begin to generalize and think in terms that I have no control of it. I failed before, I'm going to fail again. I feel helpless, I feel powerless, I have no control over my situation. Well, the key to dealing with pervasiveness is to look at an area that we do have control of and move in that direction. And once we feel confident that we have control over that direction, it gives us the confidence that we can have control over another one. The last one I want to mention is what they call personal. Personal does not see the problem of failure as something that we have to overcome, but personal say the problem of the failure is me. I got to overcome me. I'm the problem. I'm the failure. And what happens with personal, we have been taught, given an idea that something is wrong with us. Maybe we've been told all of our lives you're not going to amount to anything from people who are supposed to love us and care about us. Maybe somebody have told us that you grew up in a certain neighborhood and therefore nobody from that neighborhood have ever amount to anything. Maybe we have grown up in an environment where we have generational failure because my parents and everybody else have failed or other people have failed, then I'm going to fail. I am a failure also. But the key to this is overcoming personal is to go back to getting empowered by somebody who knows you better than you know yourself. That's God. The great God of the universe believes in you. He knows you are capable. He says that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. He said that you are made a little lower than an angel and given you power to oversee the whole world. He says that you are unique. You have value. Matter of fact, out of all the 7 billion people in the world, there's nobody like you. There have never been anybody like you in the past, and there won't be anybody like you in the future. You are unique. And then also he said you are competent. You are capable of overcoming your challenges. He said that you're capable of achieving your dreams, whatever those dreams may be. You need to believe in yourself. The last thing I want to mention is from a motivational standpoint in dealing with dreams. You need to have some kind of motivation to push you. What do I mean by a motivation or a dream? In other words, you have to have some goals. You have to want something in life, a reward. Often what happened with people, unfortunately, when we was younger, we used to play the game called the When I Grew Up game. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to be a football player. I'm going to be a singer. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a doctor, engineer, whatever. Well, matter of fact, when we was young, we just thought about all of our possibilities. Nothing into our mind thinking that we cannot do anything that we put our mind to. But what happens? As we have grown up, we start to let our dreams get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And it come to a point, it's become almost non-existent. What happened? We got slapped down by the big bad world. We have had a failure here. We ran into an obstacle here. Somebody may have criticized us here. Somebody may say you can't do it. And therefore we have given up on our dreams. What I want to encourage you to do, I want you to dust those dreams off. And I want you to pick those dreams up and go back after them. Who said you cannot accomplish what you want to accomplish? One of your dreams may be financial independence. You think about all that's involved in financial independence. You have a more control of your life. You're able to walk the beaches of the world. You're able to do things for your family. You can have generational wealth. I mean, just a variety of things that comes with financial independence. And what I want to encourage you in dealing with financial independence, you got to find the right vehicle for you. And I say the right vehicle because you are unique. You are different. You got to find what works for you. I think about the animals and the different shapes of the animals. The whale swim. The eagle flies. The cheetah run. But all of them are gifted and are talented in their shape, in their area of ability and specialty. And I'm saying the same thing to you. You need to find your right vehicle, find your shape. When I talk about shape, I like to use the acrostic, SHAPE. S for spiritual gift. Everybody have at least one talent. H for heart or emotion or passion. There's something that you love to do. Nobody have to buy and bribe you, encourage you. You just love doing it because that's the passion that you have. A for ability. There's some skill set that you have, things you have learned over time that you're capable of doing, and so you have that ability to do. P for personality. There are things that you do because of your personality. Some people are extroverts. Some people are introverts. Some people like variety. Some people like the same. Some people like to work by themselves. Some people like to work with a team. You got to find out what works with your personality. That way you'll be happy doing what you're doing. And then the last thing is experience. There have been patterns in your life that have told you to go in a certain direction. You have been successful in these certain things, and as a result of being successful in those certain things, it have told you this is the direction you need to go. And therefore, if you go in that direction, you're going to be successful and you'll be happy. And so I want to say, there are things that you want to accomplish. There are dreams that you have. And so I don't want you to allow fear or anything to hinder you. You are a powerful person. You are empowered. I think this program that the part of coffee that Nicole has that encourages us to utilize our ability and skill to accomplish the goal that we have. One thing about financial independence, people who have said regarding financial independence, how bad, how good you thought it was going to be whenever you became financially independent. They say it is 1,000 times better. And so I want to encourage you to go after your goal. Believe in yourself because you can do it because God believes in you. Thank you.
Wow, what a magnificent word, Brother Ivory. I say Brother Ivory because you are a minister. But Dr. Ivory, that was amazing. I'm just clapping. I was trying not to shout. I wanted to make sure our listeners got the word that you had for us. And I am empowered. I mean, you gave us what we needed to make sure our 2021 kicks off in the right direction. And we can start now getting everything into motion for 2021. So I would encourage you, everybody, definitely go check out the website. I'm going to definitely post out the links. Check out those books, read them. They are so powerful to get you through any day that you could be having. Listen to this message over and over again. Share it with a friend. I'm definitely going to post it. Go to the web links because somebody out there needs encouragement and need to hear this message. So thanks again for being a part of our Coverage Over Coffee session. We're really blessed to have you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan.